There we go.
Hey, good evening, everybody. We have got Zack Peter with us for the first time on the channel. We are hugely honored. Introduced by Paula M. Zack and Paula's channel links are in the description box. And me and Jen have been laughing our heads off today at Zack's review of the Meghan video that he watched, so we didn't have to watch it. And get your questions in, folks, because some of the themes this evening are Meghan Markle, Diddy, Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively. But whatever questions you've got, put them in the chat and we will get them to our guests. So first off, huge thank you for coming on, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Zack is amazing. I mean, I've been dying. I mean, you guys are gonna flood him with questions because the thing with Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, the new petition, I was shocked. I still don't understand it. I saw you publish something on TMZ that Blake Lively is basically trying to dismiss the lawsuit because what the hell is that about?
Zack, before you answer that, could you give my viewers a breakdown of the whole story, please?
Honestly, I've been keeping half an eye on it, and it's all sorts of confusing. Like here, me and Shaun had a dinner party last night. We had some friends over. I was like, right, I need to know what actually went down there, and nobody actually knows here. It's like it's a little bit of here, there, and everything.
Yeah, it's a bit all over the place. And this week especially, we've had I feel like it's been 15 new court filings that came in the last 48 hours. Because there are so many players in this game, they're all kind of coming at each other. And so right now we're just about to go into the discovery phase, which is, the first piece of the trial. Now that everybody's decided they want to sue each other, now we're getting into discovery, which is a messy phase, because that's when all the evidence starts to get picked apart, all the text messages and emails people get deposed. People are thinking Taylor Swift and Hugh Jackman and Bradley Cooper are all going to get deposed. And if those depositions end up leaking, that's going to be super juicy. So it's going to be an interesting summer should we move forward. But to give you a recap, so Blake Lively was cast in this film, It Ends With Us, which is based on a book by Colleen Hoover. And it's basically a film about domestic violence and about a survivor. There are these two characters, Lily and Ryle, and Blake Lively was cast as Lily, who's the lead actress. And then Justin Baldoni, who's the director of the film, he was cast as Ryle, who's the main actor. And so production happened, the film came out, and then people noticed that they weren't, even though they were love interests and the two leads in the film, they weren't doing any press together. So people started to speculate if there was any drama between the two of them, only to then find out that there was a ton of drama between the two of them because she ended up filing a CRD complaint and accusing him of harassment on set. And she also said that a lot of the negative press that she was getting online was part of this retaliation campaign, or as the New York Times put it, a smear campaign that Justin Baldoni, who was the director, producer, and lead actor, launched against her. And so that's her claim. Those are her allegations. He came back and said, absolutely not. That's not true. That's not what happened. If anything, she tried to hijack the film with her and her husband, Ryan Reynolds. And they, basically were trying to bulldoze their way into not only taking control of the first film, but taking control of the sequel that Justin Baldoni already had the rights to. And so now it's just this big game of publicists and crisis PR teams and juggernaut attorneys that are all kind of going back and forth and taking shots at each other. I've been covering the case very closely, and it doesn't seem like Blake Lively has a strong case. It's not looking very good for her. From what we've seen so far, I'm leaning more towards believing Justin Baldoni, because not only does the evidence appear to be on his side, but just the way things realistically would have played out, it makes more sense with his version of events, where she's trying to play more legal tactics, and her case overall is a bit more circumstantial. So it's looking like he's probably the one that's telling the truth here.
Yeah. And the thing is that for people who don't know, because this is England, a lot of people are in England, CRD is a complaint that she launched that's supposed to be private, right, Zack? But apparently, Justin Baldoni, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, Justin Baldoni was notified by the New York Post at 9:30 p.m. on Friday before Christmas that he had until the next day at 12 midday to answer to these allegations that people found out apparently since October. So they've been working on it because these CRT complaints are supposed to be private. And yet they had a hold of all of that in text messages that the New York Post redacted or altered or something like that. So, I mean, and that's what got everything started, that they were accusing him of all these things, right?
Yeah, so it was in the New York Times that the allegations were first published. And so Justin Baldoni's accusing the New York Times and Blake Lively and her team of basically orchestrating this smear campaign against him. And so what happened was she filed a CRD complaint, which is really just it's a formal complaint that's typically kept. It's a civil rights department complaint, and those are typically confidential. Those are not publicly accessible because they want to protect victims who are reporting these complaints. So she filed that. Somehow, not only did the New York Times get access to that complaint, but then they got access to all of these text messages between Baldoni and his team that were provided by Blake Lively and her team that were used to launch this bombshell article that made Justin Baldoni look like this crazy Hollywood predator. And so, as Paula said, they did reach out to him for comment, but they reached out to him at 9 p.m. and told him, you have until tomorrow morning to give us an answer. And so they gave him a 14-hour window that was mostly overnight on Christmas weekend, or the weekend right before Christmas, that like it wasn't a fair enough time to give him a chance to even respond to these bombshell allegations. So it does appear, and that's part of his lawsuit, is he's saying that the New York Times colluded with Blake Lively to smear his name.
Because he lost everything, right? He lost it.
As
He
of
was
right now,
dropped
yeah.
WE. He was dropped by Ari Emanuel, whose podcast, he did a podcast, but now apparently that Phantom podcast, that oops, what he said is not available. So he was dropped immediately. He was apparently fired he even was taking an award that was given to him, right, Zack?
Yep. So I mean, he lost his agent dropped him at WME. Ari Emanuel, who's the CEO of Endeavor, William Morris Endeavor, Ari Emanuel has come out and said that they fired Justin Baldoni and that he's loyal to Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. And it was kind of this bombshell interview. There was a live podcast taping that happened here in Los Angeles, but suddenly, after the podcast was recorded, the Freakonomics podcast came out and they said, oh, actually, we had a technical glitch. We don't have the podcast. We're not going to be releasing it after all. But somebody in the audience happened to have recorded it with their iPhone. So it ended up leaking online. And it showed that Ari Emanuel, who is the CEO of WME, had all of these things to say about how he's ride or die for Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, and he fired Justin Baldoni, which only helps Justin Baldoni's case because now he can actually prove damages. And so he did, as Paula said, there were a number of credits that he lost. There was an award that was taken away from him. I mean, it doesn't look like he's very hireable in Hollywood right now. So he really has to fight this all the way to the end to prove that he's going to, that he's innocent, to save his career. And then we did see this week that Ari Emanuel has since stepped down as CEO of Endeavor.
Oh, he has?
And he's now, he just stepped down this week. He's now going to have more of it looks like a figurative board role. So he's on the board of directors still, but he's no longer acting CEO, which to me, the timing of that sounds a little suspect. Sounds like the board members weren't too happy with how this played out.
So juicy. Oh my God. And I have to ask you. Oh, sorry. I just have to ask you because, for example, one of the producers for Shaun's channel, Ron, and I know probably Ron is watching, is a hardcore Tay-Tay fan. He even got engaged. He proposed to his fiance. And one of Taylor, he did a video about it. And I told him, you're going to regret it. I know Ron is dying right now. I don't care. I told you she was us. But he proposed to his beautiful fiance during Taylor Swift concert in Scotland, right? That they went there, and I mean, I think she even acknowledged it or something like that, So Taylor Swift supposedly is very heavily involved, and I think she's pushing for this to be dismissed too because she would be deposed, right, Zack?
So her team is saying she had nothing to do with this. She had no involvement. She'd never known Justin Baldoni before the film. But now we're hearing that she may have possibly gotten one of the original composers on the film fired. We have one of the other main actresses who played young Lily in the film. She's come out and said that Taylor Swift was instrumental in getting her cast in the film. Justin Baldoni has also said that. And they said these in interviews prior to this whole legal scandal blowing up. So a lot of people are pulling old interviews that they were doing while promoting the film or even prior to that and showing that like Taylor Swift very much had some sort of involvement in this. Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni released text messages between he and Blake Lively. And in one of the text messages, she says that, you know, Taylor Swift and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, are her dragons. If anybody's familiar with Game of Thrones, one of the main characters is Khaleesi. So she referred to herself as Khaleesi. And she said that her two dragons are Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift. And she was using that to influence a scene that she wanted to write in It Ends With Us. And so she was basically, you know, sending a veiled threat to Justin Baldoni that like, I have Taylor Swift and I have Ryan Reynolds and they think I'm right. So I think you should let me rewrite this scene.
But Zack, I've got to ask then, isn't this the most clever way to promote a film?
It would, yes, it would be a clever way. So not only is it a clever way to promote the film, but it would have been a great way to promote the sequel to the film. But because Justin Baldoni does own the rights to It Ends With Us, and then the second film is called It Starts With Us. And so, I mean, had they just been able to bury the hatchet and work through all the drama and kind of settle, it would have been great if they could have made the second film. But I think right now it's gotten so messy and it's taken away from even the point. Like everyone's so caught up in the legal drama that they don't even remember the point of the film, which was to bring awareness to victims of domestic violence.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you, because people don't know how this got started, but it got started because Blake Lively got such backlash. I think we even did videos about it, Shaun, with Ron, and we were talking about it way back when. That we were talking about it and said, "What the hell is this woman talking about florals?" You know, because what I went through with my ex-husband, and it was like, what? And she got so much backlash that she, in her narcissism, couldn't understand that people would hate her because, she was promoting her skanky hairline, which is really terrible. If I don't want my hair to look like hers, she was promoting booze. And this is in a film that, that it's about, domestic violence, and alcohol has, plays a part on that. I know that from firsthand. And she was like, grab your florals, we're gonna go. And I'm like, I remember, and it's like, because I was confused because I knew the book, so I thought it can't be the same book, right? Because I thought maybe it's a different movie. So when I saw it, I was like, what the hell is this? It's like, so she got so much backlash that she blamed Justin Baldoni. That's the whole point of it, right? That she blamed him, and this is why she wanted to crucify him, right?
Yeah, so she was promoting the film and it was very cheeky promotion. It was very much like, grab your friends, wear your florals, come get your Betty Buzz, which is her canned cocktail. And so she was doing all of these, promotions for the film that made it seem like a fun rom-com. Like people thought like, oh, Reese Witherspoon's going to be popping out and we're going to be, wearing our florals to the movies. But so once people realized like it's a really serious movie with a serious message, people felt like especially because the people that were going to watch it were people that were fans of the book, right? They were fans of Colleen Hoover, who has a book series. And so they were familiar with, as Paula said, with the subject matter. And so there was a lot of heat around her tone-deaf approach to promoting it. And then her husband, Ryan Reynolds, him and Hugh Jackman would try to do like funny skits to promote the movie, which again, a serious movie like this, it's just weird that you would promote it in this way. So the audience kind of turned on her. And then there was this one woman, her name is Kirsty Flaw, and she was a reporter who interviewed Blake Lively years ago. And so she was like, oh, everyone's talking about how tone-deaf Blake Lively is. Here's this interview, or here's this clip from this interview that I never revealed before, but I'm sharing it with you guys now, where we were just about to start the interview for another film that Blake was promoting, and Blake was pregnant at the time. And so she tells Blake Lively, congrats on your little bump. And it wasn't a little bump, it was a big bump. She was very well pregnant. It was very well known that she was pregnant. But so she tells Blake Lively, congrats on your little bump. And Blake Lively snaps back and she's like, congrats on your little bump. And so, and the reporter did not have, she was not pregnant, actually had fertility issues, but so she was poking fun at her belly. And so the reporter shared this on, I believe it was YouTube. And then from there, it kind of just lit up on fire and went viral. And then everybody started pulling all of Blake's old interviews and showing not only is she tone deaf during It Ends With Us and during this one interview with this one reporter, but everybody was starting to pull and dig up her old interviews and show that she's kind of been this diva and mean girl in Hollywood for a long time. And so that just, I mean, like things happen on the internet. When there's a viral moment, everybody jumps in on it. But then she tried to say that the reason that the internet was hating on her is because Justin Baldoni had to have orchestrated this smear campaign against her to try and take her down. But as I've pointed out a number of times, that doesn't even make sense because he had the rights to the second film. She's the main star of the movie. That, like, you can't make a sequel without your main actress, and it just wouldn't work to recast her. That why would he want to tank not only the current promotion for It Ends With Us, but why would he want to shoot his chances of potentially putting out a second film that he already had the rights to?
Becky wants to know whether the film ended up doing well.
Very well, actually. I think it did. It brought in like over, I think 250 or 300 million. So yeah. So, and it did really well, which is why in his new lawsuit against Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds and Leslie Sloan in the New York Times, they're suing for 400 million because not only is their reputation and their livelihood kind of squashed, but then you also have the second film that would have presumably done well, potentially better. That, you know, if the first one made 300 million, there's no, you know, they could have very easily made or matched that in the second film.
Got a question from Katz. I've heard the voicemails of his voice. He sounds super creepy. Do you feel this personally about him?
So yes, there was a voice note that was circulating that he sent to her. Some people read it as creepy. Some people, you know, the way I kind of read it is his tone of voice was very much like trying to appease her, like talking to her kind of like she's a kindergartner and like really like trying to feed her ego and be like, it's okay, you know, to like. So I read it as he was trying to appease her. And I think it was because from what we've heard, she's not only been difficult on a number of sets prior, but this one specifically, it seemed like everybody was walking on eggshells around her. And there was even a crew member that came out and shared that like nobody wanted to deal with her. There were, you know, a number of people on set that had apparently gotten fired because of her. And so everybody was like walking on eggshells. It was a very delicate dance that they had to play with her. So I understand where the tone of his voice is kind of like softer and, you know, it may seem a little creepy to some people. I didn't read it as creepy. I was just like, he's afraid to piss her off because the dragons are going to come and blow his head off.
and also because I think he was already being threatened that they were not going to promote the movie or they were going to walk out, which basically would have meant they would have had to, that would have been a huge loss for them, you know, because she was already saying that she was not going to promote, she was going to quit. And I mean, this is in the middle of the movie, you know, that. So he was like threatened, I guess, in a way, because he was already over budget. And can you imagine having to start again? There was a lot of things that I felt, and he's woke, you know, he's like, you know, he had this podcast, you know, that's the men bun, like he's talking about the, you know, positive masculinity or something like that. And even his producer, who's known, or his co-host, who's known him for a long time, she ended up decamping to Ryan Reynolds, bitch. And then sorry, and then and then she was like, I'm looking at this guy, it's like, I'm so glad he's not Latino like me, you know, because I would have, you know me, Shaun, you know what I would have happened, you know. So I mean, I can imagine him being frustrated and having to talk her like, you know, and I think she had a crush on him too. I think she got a crush on him, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, some of the text messages are a little, some of the text messages that she sent to him are a little questionable.
We've got one more question on this, and then we'll go over to Meghan Markle and her new show. So Abundantly wants to know if Blake admitted to lying.
I don't think Blake is capable of admitting to lying. I think she believes her own lies. But no, so the latest is that she's fighting to have Justin Baldoni's lawsuit against her dismissed. So it's highly unlikely that that's going to happen once all these motions to dismiss, once the judge kind of gets through all of that, we're going to move into the discovery phase. We're going to get the depositions, and then trial is set for a year from now. So it's set for March 2026. So we'll see. It's going to be a messy year ahead.
But the depositions have to be made by August. The depositions have to be made by August, which means Taylor Swift, Wolverine, Bradley Cooper, among a few of them, are going to be deposed, and hopefully these will be made public, won't they, Zach? Please say that.
They're likely. We'll see if the entire depositions get published, because obviously there are some parts of them that I'm sure Blake Lively's team will fight to get redacted, but we'll likely get something in the press, some leaks as these depositions happen. They're due as of August 14th. As of right now, with all the delay tactics that Blake Lively's team is trying to do, they may try to push that deadline a little bit. They've been trying to push a lot of their deadlines, but we'll see. It's gonna be an eventful summer for sure. If they pull in Hugh Jackman and Taylor Swift, and they start pulling in the text messages, and once those get published, I know the internet's gonna go crazy with it.
Do you think it'll go to trial? Oh, sorry, Jen. Sorry, sir.
No.
I go back and forth. I mean, I think it would be crazy if it goes to trial, because that's when things get really messy and everybody's skeletons come out of the closet. So attorneys often fight for settlements outside of a trial, because then you also don't know how a jury can go, right? A jury can be very unpredictable. So as of right now, it's looking like Blake and her team are fighting to go to trial. I know Justin Baldoni's team really wants to go to trial because they want to prove their innocence in all of this. So, I mean, it's looking like it's the trial may be happening. I would say 80-20.
Okay. So do you find that this is overshadowing the P. Diddy news at the moment? Because everyone seems to be so focused on the Blake Lively story here that that's kind of taken a real back step.
You know, it's so crazy. I'm shocked at how much the Diddy trial and the whole Diddy story altogether has just kind of faded a bit, right?
Yeah.
Like right now, everybody's talking about Blake and Baldoni, or like there are at least other stories that are coming up that like people aren't as hooked on the Diddy stuff as I think we were when it first came out, and everybody wanted to